Good evening and welcome back to my series, Defining Virtuosity. I'm Odin Rathnam, Professor of Violin at Cleveland State University. This next study is Wohlfahrt study number 41, marked Allegro Moderato, and is a series of slurs that change on offbeats. Because of this, I've made some fingering adjustments and would like for you to mark down measures as follows. The first measure of the second line is bar 6, the third line 11, the fourth 16, the fifth 21, the sixth 26, the seventh line 31, the eighth line 36, the ninth line 41, the 10th line bar 47, the 11th line bar 53, and the final line bar 59 is the first bar of that measure, of that line. First of all, in the original Schirmer edition, there are a lot of shifts between first and third position executed 1-1. And then on the way down, and while I think it is important to be able to measure those shifts well, and would even encourage you to practice them, provided you vibrate both notes, the departure note and the arrival note. I think that in modern violin technique, we are very, very careful not to have portamenti where we don't want to. In classical music, today, we're more and more aware of when we're using what fingering and why. And I think that's important. And because of that, in all of these studies, you'll notice already at the end of book 1 and into book 2, even though book 1 is primarily supposed to be first position, I introduced extensions and second position, and in a couple of places third. And all throughout the second book, I really get away from the notion that we should only be in third position and use many opportunities to have extensions and contractions and make use of half position and second position and even fourth position because I think it allows for a lot better colors in certain places, but it also allows for a smoother technique and clearer lines. So some of the fingering changes. In bar 3, I shift using the open A directly to the first finger there. I also, on the way down, a measure later, use the open A to shift and then drop the second finger. In the last measure, bar 5, I use a lowered first finger for the C sharp, and then third finger, and then across the bar line 1-4, 1-4 into bar 6. That's because it's easier than moving the third finger twice. By blocking that tritone. Looking ahead, I followed the same rules, and in bar 11, that's all third position instead of shifting, and I use a squared first finger, or a circled third finger, first finger, pardon me, for the F sharp, and then shift on the bow change to the first finger. Here I do 1, 2, 4. And then fourth finger here. And that brings up another point. Because the slurs are displaced, what I try to avoid, and the way that I choose whether to use the fourth finger or an open string, is I try to avoid something like this, a bow change followed by a crossing. I'd rather have on the beginning of a new slur, if that makes sense. So looking ahead, um, the next fingering changes happen in bar 26 and 27. One here instead of the printed. I want to avoid that again. So, and then on the way down, again, I avoid this. And then. So I make use of the open strings, which give us an extra moment to get our hand to the new position to avoid that 1-1 or 2-2 shift. Again, we have to be able to do this fingering or this. It's not that it's an unused skill. It's just that I would use it when the music benefits from that kind of a connection between the two pitches, not randomly. In the development music, again, I use the lowered 1 for the G sharp in bar 34. Instead of here. And then after the open E, I can be in first position. And that could be a 4 or a 3. Usually I would use a 4, but because two notes later we have a C sharp, in that case you might want to consider using the third finger and just dropping it higher for the G sharp and then directly across for the C sharp 2 notes later. Then I think the next important changes in the second half of the development, upbeat to 41. Actually, there's the recap. So in that case, when you're coming down the dominant chord, yeah, you have this twice. And again, might be good for the slowdown into the recapitulation. It's nice, if you can, to do something expressive with bar 48 across the bar line. It has to be practiced, but but in any case, these are the last notes before our recognized melody comes back. So it's nice to have a little nuance there. Phrase endings, end of bar 16, end of bar 32, end of bar, middle of bar 40, end of bar 48. Again, I like to stress those for my students because it's so easy for it to just become an exercise and I don't think anywhere in the heart of a good composer such music exists. It's always something more like right, it always has some sort of a shape. So I would encourage the student to really think that way and think, where do all of these lines go? there are two ways of thinking of phrase making if you're doing it improvised without instructions in the music that I like to incorporate. One is linear, that if the line goes up, you can crescendo. If it goes down, you can diminuendo. Another is harmonic. If the harmonic tension increases, if you're moving away from your tonic into more dissonant harmony, that you can increase the volume or the intensity somehow. And then, for the sake of interest, to quote Janos Starker, occasionally do the exact opposite. So we can have a line coming down that we actually crescendo, or going up that we diminuendo, and create interest that way. Another way to practice this is slower for vibrancy, and it is tiring, but it's worth it. Trying to really vibrate. Where you really have a very active hand. Eventually, you'll be able to do it more and more relaxed by building up the muscles and figuring out how to fall with flexible fingers so that the hand just remains somewhat active. This is very, very valuable because if you find yourself in a drier space where there's not a lot of help from the room, you'll really notice the difference between players that know how to be responsible for their own sound production and ones that rely on artificially healthy acoustics. And unfortunately, we're not always in control of our acoustics, except the ones that we create with our hands. So there you have it. That's number 41, Allegro Moderato. Practice it well, and good luck to you. Practice it with rhythms as well. You know, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, vibrating the long notes and reversed. And with the patterns long, triplet, and reversed as well. Very, very healthy. Practice with crescendos on down bows and diminuendos and up bows to make sure that your tone is even. And practice it with reverse bowings also to make sure that the tone is even. Additional practice methods can include staccati. The reason I like the staccati is because, not because I want to have a rigid arm, it's actually the opposite. It's because I want to develop the freedom in the arm to make articulated notes and to be relaxed in between them, and that the playing stays the same. By pull, I mean, imagine I held this stick here so that I couldn't move the bow, and I tried to pull on the downs. Push, making sure that all of this mechanic, this joint, this artificial joint that's created between the fingertips and the bow is the greatest artificial joint ever created, so that the bow becomes an extension of your arm. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll subscribe, share, and if you have any questions, write them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to try to answer them when I'm able. Good night.